are those two words, tradition and passion. And by combining those two elements, those two fantastic elements, we can have a fantastic, they lived happily ever after. So we can talk about the phenomenal quality, we can talk about what added value we can have when partnering in this area. So it's with a great pleasure I would like to say that this meeting has a really wonderful participant. So I would like to welcome Mr. Romanowski, Secretary of State of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. And additionally, the importance of this meeting is exemplified by Mr. Meyer, who is a Deputy CVO responsible for the food safety. And I would like to welcome Mr. Marcin Wroński, who is the Deputy General Manager of the National Center for Support of Agriculture. And this is no surprise. We are meeting here with partners from Canada and the United States. So I would like to welcome them also, Mr. Leszek Kumor from International Food Trading Companies. We also have Sean Kennedy, Cardiff Sales. Also Mr. Nathan Everett, Hardy Sales as well. Camomelian. Sorry, something wrong. Ocal Incorporated. So happy to have you here. And the American side, Nicholas Grunwald de Basabe from NG Foods, LLC. So thank you for coming here. Patrick Meliat, sorry. Thomas Food International, USA. And we also have, which we are very happy about, Mr. Richard Jersey from Rich Jersey LLC. And Pablo Cuvescantu from Nova Trade LCC. So we are very happy to have you here, and it's high time to begin our meeting. And of course, we have this is a proper place to have the opening speech from the Union of Producers and Employers of the Meat Industry, the President, Mr. Różański. Mr. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to welcome all of you. And this meeting is the finishing meeting of the second campaign that we've created for both the Canadian and the American market. And the mission of our organization is to promote the Polish good quality food, which is the reflection of the volume of export that we have in those markets. The leader was the Northern America, mostly the USA, where we sold over 40,000 tons of pork from Poland. And this is a result of our 4-year-long promotional activities on those markets. Well, we have to work a bit on Canada, but I believe that it will be as big as the US for us. And I hope that the meeting today, despite the difficult international situation that we are experiencing in Europe at the moment, I hope that this meeting will be an expression of solidarity of the whole world, as well as a gesture of help for everybody. And I believe that Polish food is a fantastic example of something that we can use to help other people. We will present the activities of the Polish Ministry of Agriculture. We will have the representative of the CVO to present the structure of the Polish cooperation between the Polish Ministry and Polish entrepreneurs. We are at your disposal, so let's have a lively discussion after the presentations, and I hope that we will be able to answer all your questions, and I hope that we'll have a fruitful meeting. Thank you very much.
Bardzo dziękuję.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As the president has just commented, the strength of such meetings is actually the strength of those back office talks that we always have. And I would also like to indicate that at 12:30 we will have a B2B session here next doors in the Etuda room, and there will be also translation available. So this is the foreword, and I'm happy to give the floor to the Secretary Romanowski from the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. Thank you very much. Well, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the host just said that you seem happy, and which is quite an achievement on Monday morning. And it's great that we are able to smile, but the situation after the last few days or weeks is quite difficult. But you know, this meeting today gives us new perspectives that prepares ground for further cooperation. Sadly, the international situation requires us to undertake certain activities, including the services responsible for food safety and activities related to the food safety system as well. And we believe that all of those institutions and systems should be now fully engaged. And this is nicely exemplified by the meeting, by the visit by the President Joe Biden in NATO in Poland, and we can see that every smallest sliver of cooperation is extremely important and should be used to its full potential. When it comes to Poland, and we have to stress that very strongly, we have one of the most modern agri-food industries in Europe. When we joined the European Union in 2004, our country, well, did a tremendous job when it comes to quality systems, when it comes to recreating the agri-food sector, when it comes to even producing the primary products. And we have statistics to prove that, because the Polish export, when we think about food, is one of the biggest exports in the whole European Union. In 2021, our country was yet again on the top position, despite being in the pandemic crisis. Despite that, the Polish agriculture came through with flying colors, because Polish food export is nearly 40 billion per year. Because since 2009, when we think about export of Polish food to third countries like US or Canada, it grew threefold. So during just a few dozen years, we can show that we are able to produce highly safe food, highly quality food that can reach even 200 countries all around the world. So we are not only one of the leaders when it comes to producing food at the European level, we are producing food of the highest quality. And we should look into some details when it comes to food safety, when it comes to its quality, when it comes to its tradition, but also to the fact that it is being produced with a great passion. Of course, every agricultural system is different. It's different between North America, if we think about the US, or even in Canada, we can find many European, let's say, models, and we can see great exchange of experiences, exchange of knowledge. But I cannot hide the fact that we would like, in the current geopolitical situation, we would like to have cooperation that would enable us to grow our markets, at least for the Polish products. And Poland is mostly different Polish tastes. And if we think about different markets, we believe that the taste of Polish food should be the key ingredient, including the ones over the Atlantic. And we want our consumers and our counterparties, can have a chance to experience that. As the moderator said, Polish food is mostly tradition and passion. It's family-owned companies. It's great level of biosecurity and great care about the well-being of the animals. And this way we are able to produce one of the best foodstuffs in the whole European Union. And as I said earlier, we made tremendous strides in creating one of the most modern agri-food sectors. Our plants are one of the most modern, if not the cutting edge of technology, because the technologies that we are using now, that we've started using at the beginning of the 21st century, give us a guarantee that the Polish food that reaches the tables of consumers all over the world is really of the highest quality. So this is why we have Mr. Paweł Meyer, the deputy CVO, with us, who's responsible for the safety. And the Polish Veterinary Service is extremely important for increasing the quality of food. And we wish that Polish food is synonymous with the highest quality and the best taste wherever it is in the world. And you should remember that the Polish product produced in Poland that has the barcode starting with 590 is synonymous with one of the most modern production systems in the world. And it's important to repeat that. It's important to exchange knowledge. But the level at which you work personally, it's very important to open new markets, to build new cooperation, to meet new people, and to build relationships. Also related to importing the highest quality food. And as you know, during this visit, if we think about our partners from the US and Canada, in Poland during the last dozen of days, we have over 2 million additional citizens, over 2 million people who have all the rights and obligations of Polish citizens. And this is a concrete obligation of the Republic of Poland to provide those people not only with the same level of livelihood, but the same level of food safety. So we also have to work on this, and we cannot be lenient. We cannot allow ourselves for the quality to drop or decrease. We cannot lose any, we cannot decide not to follow certain quality assurance systems. No, ladies and gentlemen, that would be a one-way street. A dead-end street. We have to maintain all the standards because we want to open new markets. We want to win also in other world markets. So the tremendous work done by UPEMI and the president here in Union and outside of the EU, well, it's phenomenal. You can clearly see what is happening in the so-called grain stores of the world. If you think about Ukraine, if we think about Argentina limiting the soy exports, if we think about some volatility when it comes to grains on the European market. So we have many factors that we cannot ignore. We have to be very serious about them. We have to look for such solutions that will enable us to create even deeper cooperation with your countries, like so with the US or Canada. We also need protein. Of course, we're working on a national protein program that would enable us to achieve self-sufficiency, but it doesn't mean that we will not use products from your countries. There are many factors, there are many elements that we have to remember. And as President Biden mentioned that, well, it's being felt by the Western world. It's not just a conflict for the few coming weeks. It may be a long road ahead. Maybe we'll have to learn how to live with this conflict. And maybe we will have to be producing food of such quality that will reach such problematic spaces. And nobody could have expected that in Europe we may have too little sunflower oil, too little wheat. So those basic products that came from the East, from Ukraine. But now we find ourselves in a situation when such problems may appear. So this is why we should have closer cooperation. And I believe that this is guaranteed by cooperation between governments, between North America and this part of the Europe. This is a challenge that is in front of us. And what is the most important thing? What is my main message for the consumers in Northern America? That the food produced in Poland is the food of the highest possible quality, and that Poland and the Polish institutions ensure this highest quality. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The next presentation just in front of us now, we will have Mr. Paweł Meyer, Deputy CVO for Food Safety and responsible for animal food safety, the feed and animal medicine. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present give you a presentation about the high level of Polish food, because we cannot speak about high quality food, about high quality meat without the veterinary inspection when we think about pork and beef. When it comes to Poland, and here our geopolitical location, as well as the location of our neighbors, we can see that we are in Eastern Europe. We neighbor 7 countries and the Baltic Sea. So, which means that the location of our country is quite advantageous when it comes to exporting food, when we think about the available possibilities related to importing or exporting food stuffs. When it comes to territorial division, we've got 16 regions. In every single one, we have a district veterinary officer who's responsible for the whole region, and he is responsible for the district veterinary officers. We have 380 districts in total. When it comes to the number of communes, it's about 2,500. When it comes to the structure of the veterinary services in Poland, we have the chief veterinary officer, and which is under the Ministry of Agriculture. The CVO oversees 8 border veterinary officers and 16 regional veterinary officers, who are responsible for 305 district veterinary officers. This is the general structure of the Polish veterinary service. If there are any questions about details, we will be more than happy to provide. And yeah, we also have a meeting planned on Wednesday, so we will go into details. When it comes to competences and tasks of the veterinary inspection, they are being carried out by veterinarians that are defined by the district veterinary officers, and also by some additional people who are not veterinarians but provide supporting activities. We have to remember that those veterinarians who are responsible for carrying out the services are doing so as requested by the veterinary inspection. So the control over the food system is generally at the national level, it's not private. If we think about the number of plants, we have over 1,200 plants in the beef sector, including 300 slaughterhouses. When it comes to pork, there's over 13,000 plants. When we think about the supervision by the veterinary inspection, the main responsibility for food safety in Poland is vested in the entrepreneurs or the enterprises themselves. So we also have the owner's inspection or control based on HACCP, and also the best practices when it comes to production and hygiene. And if we think about the companies that are listed as able to export to US or Canada, they also need to meet additional criteria and have to be covered by additional activities related to SOPs and the sanitary standards, additional, so SSOPs. And if we think about this, we have the owner's supervision over the food production, and it is all covered with an umbrella of official controls. So we have official inspection, which is performed as part of planned activities that cover the whole activities and all requirements of the veterinary requirements, and also some special activities that are performed on the case-to-case basis if a need arises. Apart from that, we have to remember that veterinary oversight is performed in a continuous way as part of over the slaughterhouse activities and as well as in the processing plants. If we think about monitoring of residues, we have a number of programs. For example, controlling illegal substances, chemical, biological residues, or the residues of medical products in both the meat products and food of animal origin. And here we have some certain species and the requirements. But the testing includes over 250 different substances. And last year we took over 36,000 samples, and we've discovered a non-compliance only in 0.19%. So this is extremely rare. But then if we find such a case, then all the administrative machinery goes into full gear. So if you look at the level of monitoring, if you look at the results, it clearly shows the high quality of Polish food. Additionally, we have to show the microbiological testing that is being performed when it comes to microbiological contamination. In 2020, we had nearly 9,000 controls of food batches. And we discovered non-compliance in 4% of cases. So this is very good result. We tested in different directions. So aerobic bacteria, coli, listeria, but this is the general testing in all the food types, in all the meat sector. Furthermore, the inspection and controls performed by the veterinary inspection include dioxins, furans, PCB, food of animal origin. And here, which is very important, if we think about dioxins, and if we think about any radioactive isotopes, the limits are way below the norms. So you can see that in this area, Polish food has very high quality.
Now, as regards to exporting animal-based products to Canada and US, currently I would like to show to you all the issues pertaining to the patterns of poultry export certificates. We have a special compliance certificate when it comes to fresh meat and offals, as well as meat and eggs designated for food processing to be exported to the USA. Right now, when it comes to exports, it is possible only when it comes to pork and meat-related products. I'm talking about African swine fever. This is to be considered, and as regards American market, there are 18 of such certificates. When it comes to poultry and poultry-related products, it is worth mentioning that at the end of previous year, Americans decided that those regulations pertaining to poultry should be treated as equivalent. And right now, what is being negotiated in the pipeline is a special procedure when it comes to all kind of poultry products to be exported on the American market. Now, as regards beef and beef-related products, right now we are not authorized to export such products, yet currently negotiations are in the pipeline with the American party. When it comes to both Poland and America, right now the current authorities decided that those regulations cannot be treated as equivalent. This is a long-standing process, and for many years talks have been performed, and currently this procedure has not been completed, and it is still being negotiated. As regards Canada, there are 3 health certificates that have been negotiated when it comes to fresh pork, when it comes to beef and egg-related products to be consumed. Right now we can export pork and pork-based products, only those that have been sterilized, processed, and cured, pasteurized. When it comes to poultry, we have to exclude processed poultry products. Now, poultry, similarly to USA, right now we are not authorized to export such goods there, yet it is worth underlining that negotiations are in the pipeline when it comes to exporting poultry to Canada. Talks are being conducted at the level of European Commission. They are still in the pipeline, and right now, let me mention pork production in Poland in general. As you can see, pigs are being bred on an intense basis, so there is no access to any open air space, and there is no tradition of the so-called extensive production, which translates into phytosanitary security. Right now, for us, this is only an additional argument. An annual slaughter of production that's 21 million items when it comes to 2021. Now, the production of pork, according to Eurostat EU, as you can see, Poland ranks as 4th in terms of meat production in EU, 8.4%, and year on year the production keeps changing. We are in the first top 5 producers. As you can see, exports as such, when it comes to pork, both values as well as the volume expressed in tons, you can see the exports of pork year on year keeps growing. Last year, more than 211,000 of tons exported. And it has not been completed on account of all the reports prepared for us. And of course, the main recipients are the EU, but also USA, Canada, Great Britain, Hong Kong, New Zealand, Vietnam, Belarus, and Moldova. Now, when it comes to the production of beef as such, we rank as 6th in terms of EU production. In terms of exports, please take a look. There are 2 groups. On one hand, fresh beef and chilled beef. In 2021, the volume accounted to more than 265,000 tons. Also, EU members were importers, as well as other third parties, including Great Britain, Israel, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Ukraine, and others. And when it comes to chilled meat, the volume amounted to 160,000 tons, and outside the EU, other countries where we export our foodstuffs are as follows: Israel, Japan, Hong Kong, Macedonia, also Saudi Arabia and Kazakhstan. When it comes to exporting foodstuffs as such, all the information to be found as regards food-based products and the potential for exports are to be found on the internet websites of the CVO. There are 2 bookmarks, the one dedicated for Canada and the one dedicated for USA, and all the requirements in question. And you can see the answers to all the questions that you you might possibly have. Probably I will be drawing to an end when it comes to monitoring, official control, supervision. It all indicates that Polish food is of top-notch quality. It is highly appreciated worldwide. So as a result, we should take into account the potential for developing exports even further. In this respect, thank you so much. And let me give the floor back to the moderator. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. As a moderator, I must say that our speakers are doing quite well when it comes to sticking to time. Actually, we are able to save 10 minutes of our precious time, and I am deeply convinced that we are not going to waste even a single minute of our time, because this meeting will be something that you will absolutely take advantage of to the full. Right now, let's consider the perspective of the National Support Center for Agriculture. So it's time for Mr. Marcin Wroński. Thank you so much. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, the National Support Center for Agriculture is a governmental agency supervised by the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. And abroad, we try to do our utmost to promote our foodstuffs. We have a special brand, Poland is good, or Poland tastes well, as mentioned before. And actually, we try to take part in any single fair globally. The National Support Center for Agriculture has a lot of objectives. Our main task is to promote foodstuffs both domestically and abroad. We try to also shape the system of foodstuffs in Poland. I think that this is the element to be noticed externally. When it comes to our institution, we try to perform our objectives in a number of ways. Namely, we try to organize special national stands combined with trade missions. We try to invite to those national stands all kind of Polish entrepreneurs. We try to organize special pre-trade missions for Polish and foreign exporters. We try to organize a number of seminars, especially when it comes to foreign markets from outside Europe, sometimes the ones that are more distant from us, because we try to do our utmost to help our business owners to operate there, to find their feet there, because as you know, foreign markets usually have a different culture, different religion, different conditions. So basically our intention is to prepare our business owners well, to explore those markets well. We also organize special meetings for journalists. There are special breakfasts at embassies, meetings for influencers, bloggers from abroad, so that we can promote our Polish foodstuffs well, and we can present it as food of top-notch quality. And we heard before the special veterinary inspection that supervises the production of Polish foodstuffs in terms of animal-based products. But let me also underline that the supervision over Polish foodstuffs starts from plants and seeds. And the entire plant-based production is also supervised. We have to make sure that there are no illegal substances like pesticides present there, or the absence of GMO in such plants. So every single phase of such production, and then the production of animal-based products, and later on the phase of ready-made products by the inspection of the special council pertaining to foodstuffs. So from field to the table, every single stage is being prepared. Everything is supervised professionally, and also please note that the institutions mentioned by me, I'm talking about the veterinary inspection or the inspection of plant protection, they have long-running traditions. They have been operating here for almost 100 years. They have been established to that end. So let's return to our foreign mission. We try to support our entrepreneurs. We try to look for special business contacts for them, and we also try to be in line with the common agricultural policy. So we perform a number of actions in selected agricultural markets. Currently, what is being performed are two projects, namely meat of European quality. This is a 2-year project, and the second one is Europe of high quality. We, as the National Support Center, we organize a special seminar so that we can support your cooperation between Poland and USA. This is in cooperation with the Polish Agency for Supporting Trade, Special Trade Mission for USA and Canada has been organized by us. We have also tried to organize a special information seminar for entrepreneurs operating in the foodstuffs industry. It's going to take place in April or May 2022, so in a month's time. In terms of the Polish trade of meat-related products, Poland is the first producer and the first exporter of poultry in UA. It ranks as fourth when it comes to exporting beef. When it comes to pork, we are the 6th largest producer in the EU. And here below, you can see the volume of production in 2020, the volume of exports, and the share of export in the entire process of production. You can see 63% pork, 43, almost 80%, that's poultry. In 2021, the volume of export accounted for 37 million euro in total. And this was possible thanks to the cooperation of the Ministry of Agriculture and National Support Center, all kind of trade-related organizations and entrepreneurs themselves, and I would like to acknowledge all of you for that. When it comes to the volume, to the value of exports, 3.3 billion euro, that's poultry, pork, and beef, that's 1.8 billion euro. And here in this graph, you can see the increase of our exports of poultry between 2014 and 2021. And over the last 2 years, we are able to double the export of all the foodstuffs, which is great news for us. And we also take pride in the increase of exports to the EU, but also outside the EU, of course. When it comes to the EU, our main partner is Germany, but we also try to do our utmost so that our products are also present outside the EU. We try to establish our presence also in far distant countries like Canada, USA, Asia. When it comes to pork-related products and exporting them, you can see the graph here. As of 2014, this is the volume in thousands of tons. Exports of poultry and veal has been also on an increase since 2014. Now, in terms of geographical structure of animal-based products in Poland, pork is sold mostly to the EU, just like the majority of our products. And the second position is USA. This is a 10% value of our exports. In terms of beef, 8.3%. The EU, when it comes to poultry, 75% goes to the EU market, and the rest is outside the EU. Obviously, the potential is much bigger as compared with what you can see here in the graph. So hopefully we'll be able to increase our exports to USA and Canada. This is our intention, and hopefully this will be feasible. Now, the structure of exports here from Poland to USA, 2021, 19%. That's meat and offals. Excuse me. Meat products without poultry. 14% fish, 9% vegetables, and the rest we can see products, wheat-related and flour-related products, and the rest was just below 5% in the entire structure. Now, the exports of pork to USA 2021, it amounted to 76.4 million euro, and this means that it was a 33% increase in this respect. And next, you can see a graph indicating the volume and the value of exports to the USA over the last year. The structure of merchandise when it comes to exporting it from Poland to Canada 2021 exports, that's 110 million euro. The value of exports, that was 94 million euro in 2010. So it marked a 16% increase. The largest part exported was confectionery, wheat-related products, fish, vegetables, coffee. Pork meat accounted for 6% in the entire export structure in the last year to Canada. Exporting pork to Canada, you can see it in the next slide. Currently, the value of exports amounted to 6.4 million euro, and it means that there was a decrease accounting for 30%. I believe that this would be it as a word of introduction only when we talk about exporting, our actions on the part of the National Support Center for Agriculture. And as we heard before, I would like to stress once again that Polish meat is absolutely safe. It is tasted at each and every stage of production, starting from field and seeds to finished goods that are offered at our table. It is produced meticulously, and we try to foster our traditions. We are an agricultural country as Poland. You can take a look at the volume of our production. So our Polish farmers are immensely experienced. They are open to innovation when it comes to food production, and also they try to stick to their passion for tradition. So this top-notch quality of meat, confirmed by all kinds of inspections, as well as professional institutions that very often are the owners of trademarks and certificates when it comes to meat. It all allows me to say that we can encourage everybody to consume Polish food. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, let me stress that this was a voice of another expert in our conversation that underlined those rudimentary beliefs or values, tradition and passion, combined with also irrepeatable taste, special distinctive taste. And right now we have another speaker, Mr. Paweł Radomski, Chief Specialist from the Team for Cooperation with Practice, Transfer of Knowledge and Innovation. This is a special center for the Director for Science, Institute of Animal Science, National Research Institute. European norms in the chain of meat production, safety, quality, tradition. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Welcome. It is great to see so many familiar faces. We met some of you quite recently, not so long ago, in a special fair in America. I am so happy to present several issues pertaining to food safety, special quality marks, all indicating that what is available here is absolutely of world-class quality, so there is nothing that we should be ashamed of when it comes to our Polish foodstuffs. We have a seemingly long agenda, but I'll try to stick to the point. So the main objectives when it comes to common agricultural policy, systems of certifications, quality of meat products produced traditionally, and the main directions and prospects for future and prospective development. When we talk about food safety, it is multifaceted. Every single element of the food production has been specified in the EU when it comes to all kinds of standards, directives, which means that what is available at the end of the day on our table is to be consumed because it has been inspected, certified, and it is of top quality. And this is connected to fodders for animals, well-being of animal, also plant production substances, and the composition of foodstuffs. The supervision is quite complex here in Poland as well as in Europe. We have special EU regulations that apply in the entire EU, and additionally we have our national regulations that provide more specific provisions. And additionally we have the internal procedures of special entities, associations, institutes that have their own special systems of certification that basically establish additional requirements. But it means that a given product has been tested well and has been checked thoroughly. So full transparency is our top priority. From field to the table, what is available on our table. In this way, our consumers remain fully informed. They want to be aware. They are interested in all kinds of information when it comes to the origins of a given product, how it was produced, in what conditions. Thanks to our actions, our quality systems, a consumer can be assured that what is given to them has been tested and verified. It would not have been possible without mutual cooperation between the world of science, law, controlling. Without any mutual cooperation, it wouldn't be possible to be successful. We cannot act independently because then we don't have enough knowledge. And in this way, we have products that are of top-notch quality, and our common actions can be successful. In our country, this cooperation remains at the highest possible level. We have research institutes cooperating with associations of farmers, breeders, laboratories, public administration, as well as local governments. And this cooperation testifies to the fact that we are able to draw common conclusions, we are able to work out common procedures, and we try to do our utmost so that basically it's even better and it's tastier.
Okay. As it was said before, the production is complex. You can see the number of stages that we need to control, that we need to check, that we need to test when we are producing food of animal origin, from the field, through husbandry, through production, transport, processing, sales, before we get to the final product with the final customer. So we check, we control everything to ensure the proper quality is maintained. And what is the added value for the consumer? What do they need to know? At the level of the farm, the consumer is can be sure that the well-being of the animals is kept, is maintained. I mean, the consumer knows that the feed is not based on GMOs. We know that the animals are fed traditional feed from well-controlled sources. We know that their health status is controlled. We know that they know that the breed is selected, and we believe that the breed is more or less 50% of success when it comes to the final product. The selection of breeds is very important to match them to the proper conditions, to the needs or the possibilities or of the given farm, and looking at the final product that we want to achieve. And not every breed is good for every product. So the farmer needs to be sure that he has made the proper selection when it comes to breed of animals, because we know that the processes need the raw material of certain quality, of certain type. And the consumer also knows a lot about processing. They know about the transport, they know about the slaughter process, they know how the products are produced, they know how how the products are stored. And we know that transport and slaughter is extremely important, as it is a highly stressful situation for the animals. And we know that the stress has a very bad impact on the meat quality. So we we tend to provide the best possible conditions to the animals during transport. So after they are transported to the slaughterhouse, they have some time to rest. They don't see what is happening. The stress gene is not activated. As you know, it has a disastrous effect when it comes to the final product quality. So those elements are the same for all the animal species, but every species has its own specificity. So in case of beef, we also control, and the consumer knows that they get a product that without any growth promoters, and the animals are fed silage and cereals, and it's very important that the animals are grazed on actual grazing grounds, because the quality of silage is very important for the quality of meat. So you know the small things like natural herbs occurring on the grazing grounds that have a very good impact on the fatty acids composition, and even the fact that the animal goes out to a grazing ground, the animal moves enough, the meat is more intensive in color, it is more tender after processing. So these are also important factors, and we also tested when it comes to grazing. We know that if we had the same feed but an animal that are only housed throughout their own lives, the meat is has much less quality than the ones that are actually grazed. And our beef is basically only grazed. So the consumer buys using his or her eyes, not a microscope. He or she knows that there are some vitamins, microelements, but they don't see it. When they go to a store, they see the color, they see the marbling, they see all the visual elements, they see if the meat is tender, and when they see that, they will buy it. And this is the quality of meat that we can provide. When it comes to pork, we have additional elements such as genetics. As I said, breeds are extremely important, especially when it comes to pork, and the crossing of breeds to get at the best possible final product. We also remove or limit the stress gene, because we know that especially pigs are extremely stress prone, and by producing proper breeds, we can control that, and we can create animals with a very good feed conversion ratios. Additional important element is the environment. Now, due to the ASF, there is no ability for animals to spend much time outside, but this is very good for the final product, because if you think about the Puławska or Złotnicka breeds, those animals need to go out. For example, the Spanish Ibericos are kept outside all the time. They live in the forests, actually graze on nuts, and our home-grown pork is of the same quality. And I can say that the Spanish authorities tested their products, and it shows that the Puławska is of the same quality, the same fatty acids as the Iberian pig. And we know that some Spanish companies started to fake their own products using our Puławska breed. So we can provide the highest possible quality. This is the cherry on top when it comes to the top pork types. Okay, when we think about the meat content, the genetic selection reaches 58%, and this is the maximum. Well, further genetic work can increase the meat content, but the research shows that above 58%, it's pure meat. It has no taste qualities. It's simply not good enough. So we are not recommending to increasing the meat content. So our pigs, our beef, our cows are more or less about 58%. And as I said before, the consumer is looking for individual unique characteristics. So the best way to provide that is the quality assurance programs or schemes which enable the consumer to immediately recognize a high quality product. In case of general EU systems, we have HACCP, of course, the food, the production safety system that indicates the critical points in all production systems, and this system is obligatory for all entities on the meat in the meat sector, and no processing or production plant can exist without that system. But we also have our national quality assurance systems. We have QMP, quality meat products, which covers beef, and it certifies all the levels of production. Starting from breed selection, feed, transport, ending with the raw meat. All those stages are controlled, is tested, and if a given product wants to have this this mark, all those requirements needs to be met. Another one is the quality assurance system, is QAFP, which is owned by the organizer of this meeting, so UPEMI. It covers pork and poultry products, as well as cold cuts and poultry cold cuts. At the level, we check how the animals are fed, we check the housing conditions, we check the slaughter, we check the storage of raw meat after slaughter, and at the level of producing, processing, we control the spices, we control the processes, we check if no artificial preservatives are used. We also check the way in which the products are smoked, and it is recommended to use natural traditional smoking, so no chemical smoke equivalents can be used. Maybe it's a difficult concept, well, maybe it's difficult to translate, but I hope that it is okay. So when it comes to smoking, well, smoked sausages, smoked meats, smoked cold cuts is the traditional way of protecting, of preserving meat products. Wood smoke is the best way to preserve the products. It also gives specific taste to the products. It allows them to be stored longer. All the chemical equivalents only give the color. So, and ladies and gentlemen, we've got the state-of-the-art smoking chambers, but they still use a traditional wood smoke. What are the possible tendencies? What are the driving factors on the market? Still complex quality management based on multi-party control, increasing the participation of our farmers and processors in the quality assurance systems. And I mentioned two most important quality assurance systems for meat. We also have the quality and tradition QA system that indicates the traditional sourcing of products. We have Polish products, we have non-GMO products. Our institute is implementing the national breed system that certifies the breed heritage, the genetic heritage of the animals. Another point of what is being changed, what is changing, and I believe that it's very good, it's the societal awareness when it comes to the quality of food. It's being, the general trend is less but better. Our products are meeting the expectations of consumers because we are able to provide the highest quality when it comes to the products. To summarize the main rules for pork and beef: first, no antibiotics or hormones, growth promoters, high safety standards for meat and meat products, full traceability of production according to the farm of fork approach, restrictive EU food regulations and multi-generational experience and traditions of the Polish food production. We have over a few centuries of experience when it comes to certain animal raising aspects. So please try, enjoy, talk to us, build relationships, talk to the farmers, talk to the processors, because it's really worthwhile. Thank you very much.
Bardzo dziękuję. Szanowni Państwo.
Thank you very much. So all the presentations, all of those interesting factors will be much more, let's say, full when given additional information. And now a bit about the Canadian perspective. Mr. Otwarcie, the president of the Polish Canadian Chamber of Council.
Szukamy prezentacji. Jeśli nie to na pewno na pendrive'ie. Bardzo prosimy.
Którym przyjdzie do przodu? Dzień dobry Państwu.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the problem is that I'm not a meat expert, but I am, we can say, a bilateral relations expert. So this is why I'm here. And I will try to show you a few details about the meat sector and the cooperation between our countries. And I hope that this can be a starting point for our discussion or any possible questions. So, today we will be talking a bit about our chamber and what we do for our shared business. So Canada is a country that has a free trade agreement, and this free trade agreement, as you will see in a moment, has many strategic components and bilateral recognition of regulations. So Canada is a bit privileged when it comes to trading with EU or Poland, but as you will see, we are not yet fully, the market is not fully open yet. We will talk a bit about the meat market in Canada and Poland, so for our guests from Canada and the US. And we will also touch upon different procedures and logistics. So,
A few words. My name is Bernard Otterstein. I'm the head of the Canadian Polish Chamber of Commerce, or Polish-Canadian Chamber of Commerce. I think that the fact that you're here today speaks probably volumes of the quality and the opportunity of this market, which, as we can see over the past 20 or 30 years, has been growing non-stop. The economic growth, except for 2020 because of COVID, obviously. The standardization and the high quality of products that sort of came from out of nowhere, but have really come up to world-class standard, I think are representative of everything that's been happening in this country over the past few decades. And the fact that every time an American president or a Canadian prime minister come to Europe, Poland is very likely to be on their itinerary. So, as we saw just this past weekend, so I think that Poland and North America have a lot of things in common, a lot of values, and I think that the advantages of both sides are becoming more and more apparent as we see Poland already a developed country. No longer a developing country as it was until a couple of years ago, and certainly setting some very good standards in the meat industry as well. And on the other side, North America as a trusted ally and business partner to Poland, and I think that we can see those relations grow. Because most of the audience is Polish, though, I'll speak in Polish, and if you have any questions later, we can revert. Szanowni Państwo,
So I only wanted to welcome our guests from North America, and I would like to say a few words about our chamber, which supports the bilateral business relationships between US and Canada, as well as good relationships when it comes to investments into culture and other fields. Our organization was established in 2004 or a bit before 2004. Now we are a full chamber of commerce. We have about 50 members, but the relationships between Poland and Canada, it's we work with many large companies, not small or medium enterprises. Well, and this is due to the distance between the countries, but we would like to invite all the possible companies to our chamber to grow with us and to celebrate our relationships and successes with us. And we have we organize different events every year, about 25 different marketing events, as well as an ability to participate, as we do today, in meetings, conferences, and trade shows. And maybe here are a few things that we do. We also organize trade missions in Canada together with our partners, with both the federal government and the Canadian government and the Polish government. And maybe first of all, we are here in Poland a part of a bigger group of chambers of commerce, an association of about 18 chambers of commerce that are responsible for about 90% of foreign investments in Poland. This is the international group of chambers of commerce, and it includes all the largest chambers of commerce. And we organize not only events, we not only talk, we not only help, but we also remain active in governmental relationships. So we talk with different authorities on different topics to facilitate business relationships for mutual bilateral benefit.
As I mentioned previously, Canada is the only country that has special bilateral agreements. It's called Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA. And it is a very modern organization, agreement, free trade agreement, and it acknowledges standards, conditions pertaining to bilateral trade, and it expresses our shared values, both in terms of democracy as well as economy. So let me put it in this way. It's a special agreement that helps us to become closer. Obviously, economy as such is the main driving force. As an agreement, it is aimed at not only increasing the volume of trade, but also to making sure that we are able to develop both our markets and make sure that we are in line with the standards of general well-being. So in this way, this agreement can serve as a blueprint for other future free trade agreements. So if we are to take a look at this CETA agreement, it encompasses different aspects of cooperation, not only pertaining to trade as such, but also in terms of other areas that are illustrated here in this slide. First and foremost, all kind of trade barriers and tariffs. We try to abolish them for different products, and we also try to cooperate in terms of standardizing products. And also what matters are all kind of public tenders, government tenders at the level of towns, provinces, but also at the federal level. The truth is that Canadian companies in this way enjoy access to all kind of public procurement procedures. And the same is true for European companies being able to access Canadian public procurement procedures, excluding some military sectors and others of this nature. As regards tariffs, the CETA agreement from the very first day, it was in 2017, it eliminated, it did away with tariffs for 98% of products and up to 7 years for 99%. Right now, this is the 5th year of the agreement being in force. Perhaps it's not fully fledged, but it is provisional because not all the member states, if my memory serves me well, I believe not all the member states were able to ratify the agreement. I will explain the reasons for this later on. Now, as regards the foodstuffs sector, all kinds of tariffs are still in place, and this is true not only for Poland, but also for the entire EU. There are still some special protected areas, and you can see there is some percentage of products that are exempt from tariff lines, but those percentages are slightly lower. When it comes to regulations and products that are not subject to tariff lines, the truth is that the CETA agreement definitely streamlines our communication, and it facilitates our actions that are intended to standardize our cooperation and do away with all kinds of tariffs. So if you take a look, let's say, at the beef meat, there is still some room for improvement. Before, it was difficult to imagine, perhaps, for those of you who visited America, especially Canada. I'm sure that you are able to witness the situation in which every single passenger flying there is inspected carefully, and you are not able to bring any illegal foods to the country. It is verified meticulously. But thanks to the CETA agreement, we are in a position to be closer to acknowledge our common standards, which will only facilitate the exports and imports of foodstuffs. There are also several joint committees that have been appointed, as well as working groups that work together, elaborating those issues. The CETA agreement will be also instrumental for European companies in sending European workers to Canada, and in this way we are able to explore this market, develop it, and work on developing the business of European companies in Canada. It used to be a strenuous task before. Right now, it's quite easy to send employees there. The CETA agreement has not been ratified all across European Union, and one of the reasons for that is because there is one myth circulating that thanks to this agreement you are able to import foodstuffs that is of deteriorated quality in terms of, let's say, GMO, or we used to talk about square-shaped apples and chickens from Canada containing chlorium. But this is not really the case, because the truth is that the party that has a higher standard that is in line, I mean, this higher standard will always be the dominant one. So basically, we are not able to import something to the foreign market if it fails to comply with the standards of the other party. So the CETA agreement is not really as dangerous. This is a common misconception. Basically, it is aimed at streamlining our business. If we are to consider the meat related market in Canada. And again, let me underline that I am not an expert in this field. This is the data from the Canadian government, and basically I'm just trying to do my best to bring you closer to what's going on in Canada. So here we can see the general growth in common trade, starting from when the CETA agreement was provisionally enforced. Obviously, it was slightly deteriorated on account of COVID, but generally there was an increase in trade. In the next slide, it will be presented even better. So, for instance, exports to the EU from Canada increased by 33%, and in the opposite direction, it was by 42% when it comes to agri-food products. And here you can see several examples of the so-called tariff quotas. You can see the quota of cheeses for Canada. It has been almost fully used because the truth is that Canada remains highly protective of this sector. In terms of exporting products from Canada to the EU, you can see that, for example, in the meat processing sector, as well as in other sectors, I mean, basically, there are still quotas that have not been depleted yet. And here we can see the imports of meat from the EU to Canada. So we can see beef and veal here, and so it's imports and exports juxtaposed together, and we can see that the imports from Canada has been, the export from Canada has increased twofold as compared with imports, and in all likelihood, on the wholesale scale, it has been developing. But it also illustrates that there is still some potential for growth. When it comes to pork, especially, there is still some kind of an imbalance in this sector. So actually, there are some prospects for future growth here. In the next slide, you can see some specific data regarding the imports of meat, pork on the left, on the right, beef and veal in different at different stages when it comes to the products being processed. If you are interested in it, we will be happy to provide access to more data to you. And now let's focus on the Polish market, Polish meat market as well. Probably it is common knowledge that there are different kinds, there are different sizes of meat production plants in Poland. I believe that this is probably a typical European scenario, that we have some small companies operating locally, as well as medium-sized ones, and major companies, even major capital groups to be seen on the Polish market, as well as a special comprehensive system, as we heard before, of all kinds of institutes and laboratories in charge of testing the quality of meat. Perhaps this will be interesting for our guests from the North America, namely the structure of meat consumption in Poland, that focuses predominantly on pork and poultry, whereas the consumption of beef as such remains quite low. And also we can take a look at the exports of Poland to the European Union, it keeps growing as compared with the USA and other American countries, including Canada. And also it is rapidly growing when it comes to the Asian market, and slowly growing when it comes to the African markets. And also what is to be seen is rapid development of processed meat-based products, and when it comes to selling raw meat as such, it has been on the decline for some time. We have more and more products that remain highly specialized, local products, specialized product, also halal food or kosher food that is processed in Poland. There are also all kinds of new products, product novelties on the Polish marketplace, be that products that are easy to prepare, that remain healthier, or that have some other health-related properties. And what is to be seen is also a returning focus on traditional meat, like goose, duck. As regards Canada and export-related procedures, there are several organizations that are absolutely pivotal. First and foremost, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency that is the most prominent one and that plays the most active role, and the remaining ones, including border services and other governmental agencies that are in charge of stipulating quotas, regulations. This is all kind of information that is available at the internet websites of the Canadian government. And also here you can see the information pertaining to exporting to the EU as of the 15th of January this year. There are new regulations in place that are to be found at the websites of the Canadian government as well as the EU. Of course, you have to set up your online account first if you wish to be granted access to this information. Now, let's return to Canada. Let's take a look at the perspective of Canadian companies that want to import from the EU. What seems to be significant is that you have to comply with all the procedures that are in place, and you have to have a thorough knowledge of your partner from the European Union, of the quality as such, and of course the entire supervision system has to be in place. Again, it is all to be found on the internet, on the governmental websites of Canada. You can explore it and develop it step by step. And here, in the next slide, you can see an overview of some special stringent regulations that the exporters of food to Canada have to comply with. All kind of ante-mortem and post-mortem inspections, and they are really stringent. Those regulations cannot be disregarded, because without them it's impossible to export anything to Canada. Of course, all those products have to be heat processed. Probably this is something that is well known to you. So there are special standards in place in this respect. Sanitary regulations. The entire logistics is always critical in Canada. Of course, you can send goods by plane or by ship. You cannot use any kind of road transport. So it all starts from issuing goods by plane or by ship. Of course, airplanes are much faster, but it is also a more expensive way of sending goods. When it comes to maritime freight, it's between 18 to 7 days. Vancouver, 27 or even 51 days. This is how long the shipping can take. I believe that this is it, but should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask them later on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Last but not least, the presentation will be dedicated to the American standards, expectations of importers and consumers of meat. Mr. Tomasz Dąbrowski, the president of the Polish-American Chamber of Commerce, Northeast. Thank you very much. I would like to acknowledge the organizers for inviting me. It is such a great pleasure to be among the distinguished panelists. I represent the Polish-American Chamber of Commerce. It was established in New York in 2018, so our organization is quite new, or quite young actually. The chamber was established by Sabina Klimek, the then consul in New York, and then it was decided to enhance the cooperation between Polish and American companies, and to this end we decided that we need a special subsidiary or branch here on the premises, so it's a great honor to be presiding over this association. Our main objective is to focus on the practical aspect of providing support for our members, so two aspects mainly. So first, we try to provide practical help to our members when it comes to exporting products onto the American markets and make your brand more recognizable. On the other hand, we try to invite all kinds of American counterparties and investors to Poland so that they can establish cooperation here in Poland with Polish producers, Polish business owners. So being a member of our chamber is something that I would highly recommend. So both here and in America, we have a strong team of experts, specialists that cooperate with us and that professionally deal with all kinds of aspects of operations that we as the chamber promote. I would like to focus on two aspects that are quite differing in terms of the expectations of importers, exporters, consumers, of the American market in respect to the Polish market, Polish meat or Polish foodstuffs in general. What is the approach of a typical average American to food? Food accounts for 13% of all kind of spending of a typical standard household. So first you spend money for your accommodation and transport and then food. This is an average statistics in America, and the same is true when it comes to other developed countries. But when it comes to foodstuffs and clothing, constituted together 22% of the GDP of America last year, and consumer spending accounted for 66% of the entire American economy. Traditional food stores generate almost $700 million, and a typical American consumes the biggest amount of calories, more than 3,000 calories per day. So this is a diet of a typical professional athlete. But in American society, this is perfectly justified because this is something that they are used to. They are accustomed to practicing sports intensely from a very early age. So what are the main groups of consumers that influence the structure of the market? Unfortunately, my generation was ignored, disregarded in the statistics, so we didn't go well in the history of United States, probably. we are not the dominating generation in the group of consumers. Right now, it's all about the millennials. So between 81, 96, they account for the 1/4 of the entire American population, though, so that's quite powerful. And this is the generation that we have not been focusing on in Poland because for my generation, they were treated as very young, but their purchasing power is $65 billion annually. And as of 2018, those millennial consumers have been enjoying the biggest purchasing power as opposed to baby boomers. Baby boomers, it sounds quite entertaining. Basically, this can be attributed to the generation boom that was affected just after the war. And before, this was the most significant purchasing group. My generation was replaced with the group of millennials. And the truth is that this fashion fad for food that was created at the end of the 40s in the USA was not really changing much, but it changed quite recently. Right now we have some kind of a revolution.
We have consumers who are very conscious and very aware about everything they do, including food. The millennials are very focused on the impact of the products that they use on the environment. So all the companies that are following the fair trade rules, that are pro-ecologic, they are very big in that generation. And we also have a Gen Z now. And now I know that I looked at some of the presentations. So the Gen Z has other characteristics. Well, we have a C generation, zero generation. This is a generation that came directly after the millennials, and now it is responsible for 25% of all people in the US. So nearly the same number as the millennials. So when trying to conquer the American market, we have to focus on those two youngest generations, to be honest. So the Gen Z expects higher trust, authenticity of the brands that they identify with, and for them quality is more important than quantity. And 90% of American parents say that their children impact the way and the things that they buy. So even younger generations are already more and more influential, and we have to influence them as well. The consumer preferences are follows. The millennials look for products and things that are in line with their values. Gen Z is for something that powers their brains, provides them with fit mind and body. And they see food as a way of expressing themselves and showing what they stand for. And these are the biggest consumers of eco food and the non-GMO food in the world. So we see a very strong trend for aware, conscious consumption, and we know how to approach them. So we estimate that 65% of them like over 33 food brands. 63% follow that brands using social media, and 44% declares that they will be willing to advertise the brand that they like, that they will identify with. So it is extremely important that is the social media marketing. So using the social media for advertising purposes. And I've been working with many plants, many companies, many brands for the last 20 years, but it was mostly meat producing enterprises or cold cuts producers. It's basically the same thing that the processes have to manage with, have to deal with, because the companies themselves are extremely innovative. They have phenomenal financial results, but they don't really care about their web presence. Well, it seems that they seem to think that it's not something important for them, but it seems that it's not true, because now the consumers buy using their eyes, but the eyes are more and more focused on the internet. So you have to really work on your web presence and web image if you want to reach those consumers. Okay, but now we have the other side of the coin when it comes to exporting to the US. So first of all, we have to get to the consumer. We have to be present in the mind of the consumer. But when we are present in the mind, then we have to be present on the plate. So we have to provide and supply the foods. So sooner or later you will come into contact with FDA, Food and Drug Administration. This is a governmental agency created at the beginning of the 20th century. It's a part of the Department of Health. And it's responsible for controlling food and feed, eggs, vegetables, fruit, medicine, both animal and human medicine, everything, even cosmetics and medical equipment. So this is the all-powerful organization in the US, to such an extent that if FDA is only one. And we provide all the type of consumer products. And in other fields, there is a lot of different organizations and other players in other fields. There are hundreds of different small agencies. But when it comes to food, when it comes to all the requirements, to be honest, we always say that FDA requirements, even if we're thinking about a completely different agency in a completely different sector. Since 2015, 2017, I don't want to give a precise date or precise rules. The FDA procedures related to the importers are more strict. So why and why? Okay, because 15% of food in the US is imported, which is actually quite a lot if you think about a country that seems to be self-sufficient when it comes to foodstuffs. Every year, according to the research, 48 million Americans get sick, 180,000 is hospitalized, and a lower number dies due to food poisoning. But still, food-related deaths shouldn't be made into something really terrifying, but it happens sometimes. And this is something that we have to think about, and this is something that impacts the lawmakers, making the regulations even more stringent. And the importers are responsible for ensuring that the food put on the American market meets the requirements of FDA as defined by the law. The importers are responsible for all imported products, no exceptions. The importers or the companies that fail to meet those requirements can be banned from importing ever again. So the main legal documents that regulates that is FSMA. This is an act on modernizing and safety of food. This regulation gave FDA complete oversight and control over all related matters, so it's even more sovereign, so to speak. There is an FDA FSA website that is designed to counteract food epidemics, and the activities of the agency is much more proactive, because in the past FDA was more or less reactive. It just fined all the non-compliances, and currently they are much more proactive, meaning that they act in a preventive way. So they try to prevent us from performing activities that may result in fines or other negative results. So the main slogan FDA is that the food should be safe, clean, good, and produced in sanitary conditions, which seems quite trivial for all the producers, but is being checked very thoroughly. The importers need to have a food safety plan with and they have to be controlled and verified by an external entity. The transport must be safe. Well, the whole supply chain is actually covered by the act that I mentioned a few minutes ago. And what does it mean that the full supply chain is covered by this? Well, it means that if we are a producer, a processing plant, Polish exporter, shipment company, logistic company, or even we have a car, a truck in the US, so every single actor related to producing, transporting of foodstuffs that will be exported to the US is covered by this legal act. And another thing that changed is the requirements on the importers. So the importers have to follow the legal requirements defined in that act for every single foodstuff that they create. There are some differences depending on the type of food, on the type of importer, type of food safety danger that a given product poses. And there is also the rule that your product is part of your brand. So if your product is dangerous, then it means that the brand of the product is also dangerous. So even if we have one non-compliant product, then the whole brand is being controlled very thoroughly. What also is important, without going into any legal lingo or specific details. Okay, every foreign food producer, transporter that will be exported to the US must be registered. The exporters need to be ready for preventive inspections at every point of the supply chains. Those controls include laboratory testing depending on the risk level, and the ongoing verification as in form of an audit that can have 2 or 3 stages, to be honest. So our chamber has specialists on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean that we work with. We also have specialists dealing with FDA, with food safety. We have a dedicated group headed by Sophie, who was for over 3 decades is responsible for complex shipments. So she worked a lot with Polish food. And her team includes people responsible and specializing in FDA and microbiology. So all the aspects are covered. When we think about the certificate or the health certificate, so we are able to support you with everything related to FDA and import. And I believe that is it for today. So thank you very much for your attention. Okay. On my part, I'm also very grateful, especially for this sociological insight into the American society. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we have the Q&A session. So if you've got any questions to our experts, so this is the proper time. So please raise your hand. I will approach you with the mic. So are there any questions to our experts? And now I would like to also point out that the strength of this meeting is also the additional B2B meetings. So you'll have an additional chance to ask any additional questions outside of this room. Well, outside of the official part of this room. So are there any questions to the speakers? Probably I can. Well, so it seems that we have a bit more time for the coffee break and the B2B meetings. So the B2B meetings will start in about 20 minutes, and they will take part in the neighboring room, and there will be translation if you need it. And at 1:20 p.m. the lunch is planned. So please enjoy coffee, and we hope that you'll have fruitful and positive meetings. Thank you very much.